camera, beyond the runway, and on the silver screen. Not just making our mark, but making a difference. Now that's a job for a Girl Scout. Girl Scouts, preparing girls for a lifetime of leadership.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Some people already tuning in, chiming in over there. Do appreciate it. Calvin Williams wishing us all a good afternoon, to you as well, and dropping those likes and reactions, which we also appreciate. Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Calvin Williams. Just helps with all those algorithmic things and helps us continue the mission, having live local talk radio here in the borderland and talking about the issues that affect us here, because no one else is really going to get into this kind of stuff the way that, well, we do, because we live here, we experience these things. And if you don't think there's any other opinions out there, oh, I got news for you, and it's well worth the listen, because we definitely delve into the subject, particularly on a day like today, because we have made it through most of the week here. We got a little bit left to go, particularly if you're still at the office or about to leave there. Hope you're staying safe on the roads out there, because Friday is here, and that means, well, a couple of things here for this program. One, we're going to be having those open lines throughout the program. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be taking those calls throughout both hours of the program, along with comments, and we'll also, of course, make things a little bit more lax when it comes to topic selection, shall we say. We, of course, still focus on the impact of the borderland here and the things going on that do cause those impacts, but we'll take on any subject today, because it's the pressure relief valve for the week is the best way I can think to talk about it, because there's so much more than we ever get to. I mean, we go pretty far afield during any given day, but on Friday, we pull out all the stops and really get into some of the major things. Now, of course, this week has been a little bit different than most, even on that. Calvin Williams saying there are my opinions and the rest is comedy. Well, as long as you're having a good time, I guess that's what's important here. But yeah, we got a little bit further afield than we even usually do during the week, because, of course, some national events causing an overwhelming amount of focus and attention on it, including that, and well, all stemming really from that leaked majority opinion draft from the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade. And yes, there are a lot of opinions on that. We can certainly get into those, but just because it came up as an issue yesterday, not something we usually have to do. Just remember, we're looking to seek for discussion here. So if you're just going to be spamming profanity, you're going to get yourself gone. We don't usually have to do that. This is about only the second time we really had to do it, outside of just like regular like bot accounts and spammers. We put the kibosh on those every so often, particularly over on the social media pages. But we have just some very clear basic policies that act like a human is kind of one of them. I mean, I know some of them might not qualify out there, but as long as you're getting close here, we'll allow it. But if it's just, some just real egregious profanity, not going to work, not even online here, because that's an interesting thing that's actually kind of changed, even just over the time frame of this show here, because it was there for a long time that the internet was now the new Wild West of, well, what was or wasn't going to be allowed. I mean, how many of those, censorship or net nanny kind of programs were there out there, and we're just constantly strained to keep up, because about anything could be posted anywhere. And now it's not exactly banned. Well, in some cases it is, but you'll get demonetized, not quite deplatformed, but de-algorithmed. That's the phrase I can keep up with, for not having some pretty specific bounds, which is why you see some strange things in videos these days, including censoring words like die, suicide, wine, and I just killed all of our reach here right now. But we'll get into them all, because we're still up on air in all the places. I mean, the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch are interesting experiments, ones we intend to continue, because, of course, that's modern movements of audience and such here, but of course we'll still be online for most of it. Some of the other questions coming in, John Browsleton saying, how soon will we get to hang the Supreme Court leaker? I think you're going to be disappointed if that's your ultimate goal here. In terms of, well, actually prosecuting him, well, that remains to be seen. Of course, there's been some interesting comments coming out from Attorney General Merrick Garland, among others, and the Marshal of the Supreme Court doing his own investigation. No idea how long that'll take, but I'm sure an answer will come out before too long. Well, I guess not positively sure, but would fully expect it will, but only time will tell there. But hang, I think you're, again, going to be disappointed if that's your expectation of an outcome here. But as I've said, we do have those phone lines open now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Got a couple calls on the line here right now coming since the start of the show. Start jumping with the first one here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Jerry at the Northwest.
Hey there, Jerry.
How you doing, Andrew?
Doing all right there. What's on your mind?
John Brazelton. If it's a Democrat, they're going to make him a hero. They only hang him if they're Republicans. Okay. I want to answer a question for our friend there in the Northeast that always calls in and likes to bash other people. Okay. He asked a question about where did Jesus say that abortion is bad in the Bible? First off, he needs to understand that Jesus is God and he was there in the beginning of the Bible. So one of the first places he needs to look is John 1, verse 1 through 15, then Luke 18, 15 through 17, and then Revelations 21, verse 8. And he also asked a question about where God is referenced in the Constitution. It's after Article 7, and it says, done in the convention by the unanimous consent of the states present on the 17th day of September in the year of the Lord 1787. So year of the Lord. I wonder what Lord they were talking about there. So just to get you started off, and I hope El Paso has a happy Mother's Day.
Oh, absolutely. For you and yours as well.
Thank you.
All right, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. I mean, yeah, we got important holidays coming up here this weekend, but of course we got quite a show to get to in the meantime. Again, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A couple more calls here on the line here already. Let's get to the next one here. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Sophia Frankie. How are you today?
Doing all right, Frankie. What's on your mind?
Well, let me tell you, I want to chime in. I just heard earlier that job senator of yours, Doug Cancun's bus, gets up there and just definitively, declaratively states that it's a left-wing legal clerk working for Elena Sotomayor.
Hold on there a second, Frankie. We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Try to get a little bit closer to the phone there if you can.
What kind of a person that has that kind of position of influence gets up there and throws something so vaguely wild out there to just rattle everybody's cage? I don't get that. I do not get that. He's a lawyer himself, and he would say something like that with no proof whatsoever?
Yeah. Hey, Frankie, hold on there for just a second. Frankie, can you hear us all right?
What?
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing part of what you're coming through on the phone. Try to get a little bit closer to the speaker there if you can.
Okay. What?
Oh,
again, I want to say, that Senator, Doug Crunch, Cancun Crunch, get out there and definitively, declaratively said that it's a left-wing, radical, nut job clerk belonging to Elena Sotomayor. And then when he was asked, well, how do you know? He said, I don't. I'm just guessing. Now, what kind of person said something? They lost the water nuts.
yeah, I've seen some similar kind of analysis here, so we're still having a little bit of trouble hearing you, but answering to the question as you're putting there, the question for those who weren't able to hear it as clearly is that there is, Ted Cruz among others, and I've seen a lot of analysis online, a lot of a kind of armchair quarterbacking at this point on who may try to do their own investigation essentially into who seems at this point likely to have been the leaker here. And I've seen a lot of that analysis, mostly based on, shall we call it, background and relative qualifications, who they've clerked for, and things about, well, their presence, more than anything actually there is evidence pointing to this specific person beyond, well, they look like the kind. Yeah, that's essentially what it comes down to. And yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and I'm not buying any of it until a full investigation is being done because, well, you're jumping the gun it's not a good thing in general, particularly when we're talking about very serious issues like that. So fully expect that there will be some result here. And to the, assertion that someone will get hung or not, I don't think anyone will literally get hung, but I think whoever it's going to happen to is probably going to find themselves no longer within the court, regardless of their persuasion here, even if there might be some vilification or canonization or vice versa, depending on the parties at play here and the parties' support behind them. Be very surprised. I will perfectly admit I'd be very surprised if this was something from within part of the apparatus of the conservative majority that currently exists on the court. But I'm not going to totally rule it out because we still don't know anything about the motivations behind this. And that's the part I'm going to be most interested in because, there's an argument to be made that this was something to try and force even further agreement with it, seeing as the amount of pressure coming out of it is you therefore have to decide this way here. So thank you for the point and call there, Frankie. Sorry, we got a little bit bad quality on the phone there, but I think we got to your question. I do hope here. Tell you what, that's going to lead us to our first break of this hour. Catherine Cordry mentioned also posted some of the addresses. Doxing people is a very bad thing. I don't care what the reason is behind it. It's saying that you want someone to show up at this person's location and do something to them, which is not how discourse works. So anyone who has gone to that level pretty immediately finding themselves in the wrong here, among other things, in most of my experience, anytime I've seen it happen. But tell you what, we'll get into more of this after the break here because we got a whole lot more, another couple hours of the show. Better part of to go, and a whole lot more conversation we'll get to. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Mention of Mother's Day has, of course, been brought up, and a happy Mother's Day to all of those out there that qualify. But if you're looking to make sure you get the right thing for the mothers in your life here, might I recommend you've still probably got better part of a chance to make sure you get a great bit of local supply from Enhanced Flavors, your local source of over 40 quality flavored olive oils, balsamic vinegars, and extra virgin olive oils. Their selection comes from all over the world. The best places for these kind of things: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain for their olive oils, and balsamic vinegars, of course, straight from the Modena province of Italy. Otherwise, it doesn't count. Now, I love these flavors, use them in my regular cooking, but if I'm wanting to put together something really special, I'm reaching for these. Some of their flavored and spicy olive oils, including they got this roasted chile one that won't quite knock your socks off. They've got ones that will, but it'll really amp up the flavor and help spice up your life. So if you're looking to make the home cooked route, or even just a gift for, again, the mother in your life that really likes to cook or wants to try new flavors or just break out of the ordinary, you need to go and find them. EnhancedFlavors.com is the website, but of course they are also out in the community pretty constantly, particularly on Sundays at the Upper Valley Arts and Farmers Market. They're in the Hobby Lobby parking lot off Crossroads near Donovan and Mesa. But again, all the information and the full selection, and get your own local delivery from EnhancedFlavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Zaragoza, look for a stalled vehicle that's blocking the right shoulder. An accident at Joe Battle Boulevard northbound at Zaragoza. El Paso police on the scene. George Dieter Drive northbound at Treywood. An accident there. Montwood would be a good alternate for you. And North Loop Drive southbound at Americas Avenue. An injury accident there slowing traffic. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's $1,000 in your hands.
$1,000?
No NFP. EFTs, or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Have you ever heard the harrowing tale of the 13-day train ride Lincoln took on his way to his inauguration and how it almost ended his presidency before it began? Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you over 65 or turning 65? Whether you're new to Medicare or already have a plan, important changes in Medicare take place every year that most Americans miss. Get your Medicare maximized with Chapter, a free service that makes sure you have the right plan now and continued concierge service whenever you need a change. At Chapter, we instantly compare thousands of plans from the most trusted insurers to find our members the best and most affordable plans for them, the right Medicare coverage for you, including plans to cover gaps in Medicare Part A and Part B, important benefits like vision, dental, and prescription coverage that could save you thousands of dollars each year. Maximize your Medicare with Chapter, rated A+ by the Better Business Bureau. The service is free, so call and speak with an advisor. Let us help your next chapter be the best one yet. Call 800-607-2155, 800-607-2155, 800-607-2155.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
You know, every 3 seconds, there is a new victim of identity theft. A criminal could be applying for loans in your name, selling your personal information on the dark web. Now, protecting your identity can be very easy thanks to LifeLock by Norton. No one company can prevent all identity theft or monitor every transaction of every business, but LifeLock, it's simple and easy to protect yourself, and you'll save up to 25% off your first year when you go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Just use the promo code Hannity.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at the show, particularly on a day like today. It is Free for All Friday with those open lines throughout the program and taking on any subject. And yes, we do mean any, just keep it clean if you're calling in. Don't want to have to dump you off the line here, because that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of comments coming in as well over on our social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. That's really the advantage of those. Is here you see the show, all that good stuff. Here's some of the comments coming up. Can join in on that, and we'll also post some of them up as well. A lot of interesting conversation, including Ian Grimm with saying Frankie sounds the best he ever has. Let him talk underwater. I mean, we do have some very basic standards on call quality. We need to be able to hear you. So that's not a we won't take you. That's a we'll try to get the idea as best we can, and then have to move on, because we do. It sounds that bad. I mean, it just hurts the ears. So nothing against Frankie specifically, but audio quality is an issue here. RJ saying further over on the YouTube page that paying that the protests don't burn too many cities to the ground, saying the left field's unhinged and losing it. I mean, protests have been going on. Of course, it was overnight when that leak happened that the fences actually popped up outside the Supreme Court building itself. And not exactly the same level of fences, at least not initially, that were outside, of course, the Capitol building in the wake of those protests and riots happening there. But still, yeah, we'll see how this summer works out. I know there have been some marches, some protest things going on, but anything getting out of hand beyond that, you're not going to find me singing much of the praises of what I want to say here. But a lot of other comments coming in here. Again, RJ, Calvin Williams, Kathy Codry, Ian Grimm, John Browsett, Flaco Jimenez, and more tuning in, chiming in over there dropping those reacts, which we do appreciate. Ian Grimm, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Calvin Williams. Just helps all of us parts of our mission to talk about the things affecting us here in the borderlands. So let's go back to those calls right now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Daniel on the east side here with us right now. Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Oh, hi. How are you? I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I don't get a chance to hear you all the time, but I know you're there, so we appreciate all
absolutely.
you do for El Paso.
I appreciate it as well. What's on your mind?
Thank you. Listen, I just wanted to talk just a little bit about that leak. And you know, there are several things that really should bother everyone. And number one is the fact that the people or the person who did the leaking must have been a clerk at the court, because I don't think I don't think anybody else would do it. And to be a clerk, you would have to be really a good lawyer. So in order for one of the Supreme Court judges to pick you, you know? So you think that a person who is that learned to have passed the bar and so forth, to leak that information, it's number one, it's unethical. Number two, it's really ignorant. Because if we really look at the Constitution, what happened with Roe versus Wade is that really what the court is going to probably do is give it back to the state. Now, if we look back, we can see that the federal government has nothing to do with health in each different state. It shouldn't be involved at all. That is something that's done by every state and by the voters of the state. It's something that is local, not federal and not centralized. So I just don't understand why they did it. Nobody's taking away the right to abortion or anything like that. What they're doing is they're going back to the state and they're saying, look, this is your deal. You guys figure it out in your state with your lawmakers, and you pass the laws that the people in that state feel are fair. That's one. Number two, you also see that people have taken this further. They're saying that this is against abortion. It's not against abortion at all. It's got nothing to do with it. Number three, when we look at abortion, we should look at this, that we're talking after 10 weeks? Yeah, 10 weeks, you have a heartbeat?
Or 6 weeks here in Texas currently,
you have a little human being inside a stomach. So when you say, well, it's my body, it's my right, and so forth, it's correct. It is the woman's body. It is their right. But we have to think that there's a little human being that's there. And who is going to help that little human being? Who's going to protect that little human being that's inside? No one. We just cut them up and throw them out in pieces. And you know, after 20 weeks, they feel. So can you imagine getting a little shredder in there, like a little roto-rooter, and tearing up a human being? I just don't see anybody doing that. And I guarantee you there are lots of mothers that tomorrow are feeling ill and not feeling well about what they've done in the past. Because not one single human being can say, well, it's my body and I got rid of a kid. I got rid of a fetus. Really? We all know that it's not a fetus. We know that it's a human being. And there's millions of people that need to have a child in their home and they're not able to. Isn't that a son of a gun? And so I'll leave it there. Because I do. This is something that is so grave that we have paid for it. And we see that payment. You know what we see that payment? We see it with all those single mothers, especially in the black and brown communities, that lose their kids because they don't have a family. That mothers have to raise kids with no fathers because, you know why? Because in order for us to approve and do abortions, we have to leave God out of it. Because the minute we do, we would feel the guilt, the terrible guilt of what we've done. So we leave God out of it. Parents, their fathers used to not stay anymore. Why not? Because they're going to get, if I leave her, don't worry, the state will take care of it. They'll give her, food stamps, whatever. They'll take care of kids, milk, don't worry. They got WIC, they got this and that. And there we go. And it's really terrible that I heard this woman, I think it was yesterday or today, in the White House, the lady with the red hair, I forget her name. You know what she said? She said, we are protecting most people that do abortions are black and brown people. Now, isn't that a racist thing to say?
I mean, there's
a
lot of problems with this whole subject.
Again, in reverse? That is terrible. That is so racist. Coming from the DNC, I just cannot believe that. So I just thought I leave that. Maybe somebody can rebuke me on this or say something at least, because it's a terrible thing. Tomorrow we have Mother's Day, and we should be thankful how lucky we are to have a mom who loves us and is with us all the time. And you know what? We always forget about it. We don't see sometimes our moms for years. I know that happened to me when I was going to college and all that. So we should remember that. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. Appreciate the point in the call there. You have a good one. The standards that are involved in this. So yes, the idea of we've talked a lot about the amendments at play within this decision, this draft decision, because of course it has not been fully released and the full final vote out. Again, there's probably implications for how it will finally come out. But in general, the way the Supreme Court works is that, my understanding, because there's no direct documentation of this, because it happens behind the closest of doors, most closed of doors, probably a better way to say it, of way that the Supreme Court does its deliberations outside of, maybe familiar with the oral arguments part when it happens in the court, and even some recordings, audio only, have been coming out in recent years on the basically the allowance of the court. But you'll also notice there's never any videotape of those, because the Supreme Court is a pretty cloistered branch, head of the branch of the judicial sector of government that we have in this country. And that's because the entire point is not to be in the limelight, to be anything besides functionaries, is the idea, even if that has gotten more than a little bit far away from it lately. To my understanding, from the accounts I've read and former clerks and such, there's often open discussion, debate, furor, and agreement ultimately that happens within the chambers of the Supreme Court during their deliberations. And these opinions and drafts can be passed around pretty openly. And I know there's also been an argument out there about the idea of, well, these should never be made secret. It's like it's not final yet. So that's the part that, anyone saying that, well, this should have been released out here and is totally part of the process. Yes, there's a handful of examples within history of even deliberations having been released, particularly around like the Dred Scott decision, if you really want to reach back into history. But there's obviously ulterior motives that someone has about this and wanting to influence it. Again, I'm not, there's possibilities along more than a couple of angles there, and hopefully the truth fully comes out. Want to know how that happened, but there are reasonable assumptions to be made. In the meantime here, when it comes to the standard you're bringing up here, there are essentially two. Back when I was actually doing more involved debate on this, this issue has never not been in place. Back in actually high school, I remember doing more than a couple of speeches back in my speech and debate competition days on this. So the heartbeat standard is one, and another is the concern of fetal viability. And that's one that we delved a little bit more into back at that point in time in the competitions I was involved in on the debates, pro and con on this, not exactly as taking a personal position on it, but as let's expound on the points being made here and, support your argument, essentially, is the way it came down here. And the fetal viability standard is one that I think probably has the most support behind it, though, of course, I know there are many that are fully in favor of the idea of the heartbeat standard as well. But I will say this, we're talking about the 9th and 10th Amendments as we have. The ones that impugn the 9th Amendments, the arguments being made about this decision are the ones I have the dimmest view of, but the ones talking about the 10th Amendment, that any powers not explicitly given to the federal government are thereby held by the people and the states respectively. So that's the one that I find probably the best standard, but also I think that the central upheaval that could come from this needs to be fully recognized, because there have been many decisions on either side of the political spectrum, all sides of the political spectrum, that could be impacted by an enforcement of such a view on this, because many have been made And again, not even just benefiting a particular political ideology on the idea that, well, we have, even incorporation through other parts of the Constitution here could technically come into question if that were to continue to be applied. So I just want to say that even if this supports your ideas and goals and what you like to see happening, the way it is done is almost as important because, again, of the precedents that it's set here. But you know what? I've been gone off here for a minute. We got to take that next break right now. We are going to be talking further about this and more of the issues that you all bring up. A lot more comments and such coming in here. If you want to call on yourself, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We will be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm, of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk. It is Free for All Friday. So let's get into it, as we already have been. Let's keep it going here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Every day, thousands of children come across the Bridge of the Americas and other ports of entry in the El Paso area to go to school here in El Paso and other border communities. However, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says it's time to overturn a 40-year-old ruling that requires the United States to pay for the education of migrant children. Plyer versus Doe is a 1982 Supreme Court ruling that requires public schools to educate all students regardless of whether they're U.S. citizens. KFOX 14 spoke with more than 20 people to hear their opinions on this, and not one person supported overturning the law. Beto O'Rourke, who's running against incumbent Abbott in Texas' gubernatorial race, said Abbott would rather take that money out of public education and turn that funding into vouchers for parents to choose private schools or charter schools. And Wet n Wild Water World in Anthony, Texas is opening for the 2022 season this Saturday, May 7th. Wet n Wild will be open weekdays only during the month of May and every day beginning Memorial Day weekend. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Checking El Paso traffic for your Friday. Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. There's an accident reported slowing traffic. I-10 westbound between Airway and Paisano, it's a 6-minute delay. George Dieter northbound at Treywood Drive, an accident there. Montwood could be an alternate. And North Loop Drive at the Loop. An injury accident there with El Paso police on the scene. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It was definitely a warm end to our work week, with temperatures returning back to near 90. The winds during the day were gusty at times, but as we get into tonight, those winds will decrease and should be less than 15 miles an hour. However, this weekend does look to be a windier setup for us, with Mother's Day looking to be the windier day of the two, and it looks like also we're looking at some very warm temperatures.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get to Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Masters shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
The all-new Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital is for children who are at risk for or who have been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. With a doctor's referral, you get dietitians, nutrition education, counseling, and more. The Empower program at El Paso Children's Hospital.
Did you know that Superman defeated the KKK? Yes, in the comics, but his comics had an effect on the real-life hate group. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Either of those names, most of those places, you can find us in our continuing mission to have more live local talk radio here in the borderlands. So supports all of that, and a lot of comments coming in there here today. RJ, Rodney Linkus, Steve Ivey chiming in from Superior, Arizona, Louis Pinato, Kathy Kodry, Ion Grimm, Matt Mazna. Make sure I say that one right, and a whole lot more. So if you wanted to chime in over there, you can. But of course, we got those phone lines open as well, because Free for All Friday means we've got everything going on throughout both hours of the program here. So that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. I'm not going to be surprised if we have a lot of people commenting on that particular Supreme Court Roe v. Wade issue today, but of course, a lot other going on. One comment I want to get to here, Rodney Link is bringing up that I'd like to know if there's an independent oversight committee for the Central Appraisal District, that his house appraisal increased by 50%, and saying that every personal property owner in El Paso should protest, yet only a couple of thousand are protesting. I haven't seen a concrete list of how many protests there are. I mean, there's expectations that the amount might cause it to drop, but yeah, that 50% increase there, that's, yeah, I would call that egregious in most circumstances, unless you built a castle addition to your home there, and even then, woof, that's a lot. So, I mean, definitely worthwhile to look at your options there. I mean, epcad.com is the place to do it. I mean, they do have a board of directors, but when it actually comes to an oversight committee, I mean, I think that comes down to, well, let's just put it this way. A lot of the people that are on the board of directors, I mean, some names that you may recognize here, Joshua Acevedo, David Stout, Freddie Kaleo Avalos, Shane Haggerty, and a whole lot more. These are in also other elected positions. So not exactly a crossover, and you're voting on them to then be in this, but some of these other taxing entities. I mean, we're talking about the county and at least a couple of school districts I'm recognizing there. An avenue, I guess I should say, of reaching out or of holding them accountable in the long run, but a specific like oversight board, not sure if there's something that fits exactly what you're talking about here, but a lot more comments coming in here as well about some of these decisions and some of these things going on. So let's get back to the phone calls here right now, because if you want to see the Thunderdome comments for yourself over there on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, you certainly can. Right now, we do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon, Andrew.
Good afternoon there. What's on your mind?
Yes, as your listeners, a lot of your listeners know about the lawsuit that the Mexican government has placed against certain gun manufacturers.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Recently, the judge in the case was asked to dismiss the lawsuit by the respondents based on the Lawful Protection of Commerce in Arms Act. Well, the lawyers for the Mexican government replied that it doesn't apply because the crimes were committed in Mexico. Well, if that's the case, then Mexico has no standing to sue these gun manufacturers.
At least not through U.S. courts, absolutely, here, because it usually comes down, unless we're talking about an international court, of which these very clearly are not, that you're, well, not able to sue them within a jurisdiction in which a crime did not occur.
That is correct. That is correct. And once again, there's been several attorneys generals that have filed amicus briefs in support of the Mexican government. And my question is this: do these attorneys generals that are essentially advocating or filing these briefs for the Mexican government, do they have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act?
I think I know that question has come up in the past and to my understanding, unless they are receiving direct support from the Mexican government on this or actively acting on their behalf, I don't think any of them have. That's been a little bit harder to pin down, but I know we've talked about this previously and I've looked into it because a lot of them are making essentially their own arguments that we are having similar issues along those kind of lines. Not exactly like Mexico per se, but that we have similar concerns about what Mexico is dealing with here. So I don't know if they have to, though it does raise a question, certainly, that should be probably better answered.
Yes, the way I read the law, you don't have to. The party that's advocating does not have to receive any benefits. You're just if you're representing the interests of a foreign government, and by all means, yes, filing an amicus brief in support of a foreign government in a U.S. court, that is advocating for a foreign nation.
One interesting point that has, of course, come up there is could this open up an avenue for Russia to sue the U.S. for providing arms to Ukraine in this case? So, I mean, the implications are pretty great here, even outside of domestic politics.
That was it. That was going to be another point I was going to make, but anyway, you hit it right, the nail right on the head with that. But anyway, something for the audience to think who we're voting for and who's looking out for our interests. Anyway, I turn the mic over to you, Andrew.
I appreciate it. I mean, to spike your point here, but I mean, there's a lot of, the implications from this would be immediate. If it were to actually be successful and pretty wide ranging, because okay, sure, there's a lot of focus on guns, gun laws, gun controls. You want to pick another contentious issue that we could be getting into here. You'd be hard pressed to get another one outside of, again, Roe v. Wade has dominated lately as a total lightning rod. But this one, often finds its way back into the forefront here more often than not, I do feel like. So when we're talking about this and the potentials with it, and just all the things that could come from it, the secondary and even tertiary implications would almost boggle the mind on what it can mean for, domestic policy de facto anyway, because if a company has had, once a company gets whacked by something like a $10 billion lawsuit, that's going to cause some issues here, among other things. But then again, the idea of this being an international avenue for it, really, I have wondered a long time what was the end game for the Mexican government in this, because if they say no, really the only recourse, and even if there wasn't anything awarded to them by U.S. authorities, would essentially be, we're going to seize whatever assets there are within our country and within our jurisdiction. And I still kind of seeing that being as the main outcome of it, but we'll see. And the implications are pretty staggering from that here, but we'll keep our eye on it. So thank you for the point in the call here. Another comment coming in, Ion Grimm saying, if protesters get into the Supreme Court building, wonder if they will be treated like terrorists and thrown into jail. I kind of hope so. If you're talking about equity with other previous prosecutions of breaking into otherwise secured government buildings without invitation, anyway, shall we say? Would certainly hope so, because that would be bad. I don't care really how you slice it here. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. I know we got more calls in line, and we'll certainly get to more because we'll be doing that throughout both hours of the show here. Already coming into the last segment of this first hour, but don't worry, we'll be around for the 5 o'clock hour as well. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Coming up on this, more calls, more comments, and a whole lot more discussion of all the things going on and affecting us in the borderland, but beyond that, as it is Free for All Friday. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso fires on the scene of a crash Gateway Boulevard westbound at Lee Trevino, causing some slowing there. An accident reported on Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. I-10 westbound is slow from Airway to Paisano with 10-minute delays. And you get an accident George Dieter northbound at Treywood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Allstate. Are you a safe driver? Are you looking to save money? With DriveWise from Allstate, the safer you drive, the more you can save. At Allstate, better protection costs a whole lot less. Visit allstate.com or call an agent for a quote today.
New on Curiosity Stream. Deformed trees, mutated wildlife, and no humans for miles. 10 years after the disaster at Fukushima, see what this irradiated ecosystem can teach us about nuclear fallout on Radioactive Forest. Plus, looking for the most diverse marine life on the planet? Dive into the Coral Triangle and experience a frenzy of wildlife you've got to see to believe on nature's greatest secret. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. Regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is a leading cancer killer, but it can be prevented with regular screening starting at 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today. Visit cdc.gov/screen4life for more information.
Happy with your Medicare supplement plan? Are you paying too much for doctors or drugs? Did you know that you don't need to wait for the annual enrollment period to switch plans? You heard me right. With Chapter, you can apply to switch your Medicare supplement plan whenever you want. Chapter is a free service that helps you make sure you are on the right Medicare plan for your needs. Chapter searches thousands of options to find the plan that best suits your specific healthcare needs and could save you thousands of dollars each year. Because healthcare should be your choice, not a bureaucrat's decision. Whether you're already enrolled in a Medicare supplement plan or you're new to Medicare, call Chapter and make sure your choice is the right choice. It could be the last call you ever need to maximize your Medicare benefits. The service is free, so call today. Call 800-700-5622. 800-700-5622. 800-700-5622.
Did you know that Superman defeated the KKK? Yes, in the comics, but his comics had an effect on the real-life hate group. Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so. As always, particularly on a day like today, a lot of ways to get at the show. We do have that phone line open right now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do also have a lot of comments coming in, as expected, on with just the ever so serious, slightly serious, many issues going on, local, state, nationally, internationally these days. One of the ones that we'll probably get into next hour here as well, since it hasn't been brought up much, is the what Governor Greg Abbott has been talking about within the last day or so, Plyler versus Doe, and the implication that could have for both education and border security here in Texas. But let's get back to those phone lines here right now to close out this hour of the program. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I'm sure you read that Elon Musk paid $44 billion for Twitter. What a guy, this Elon Musk character. He'd be running for president if he was born in the United States. Now, this guy is super smart. And there are other super smart, successful, good Americans who could probably be a better president than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You know, I was reading along with my home's valuation that the value of all property in El Paso is valued at $43 billion. So Musk paid more for Twitter than the value of all the real estate in El Paso. Now, I never used Twitter, you know. I think it's a dangerous toy for Elon Musk, as a matter of fact. Who needs Twitter? You know, of course, Trump used it to great effect, you know, and then got banned from Twitter. And I guess he's hoping that Elon Musk will let him back on. You know, they really should increase the taxes on these billionaires and giant corporations that haven't been paying taxes. Hell, I pay taxes, but not these giant corporations. That's just not right. And talking about a rigged system, it's rigged for the benefit of the plutocrats with their purchased politicians. And now that I'm talking about money, for the first time since 2016, the Treasury Department plans to pay down the national debt. Now, Republicans are fake fiscal conservatives who spend and borrow. For all the talk of congressional Republicans about deficits, it didn't happen during Trump's 4 years in office. Now, under President Biden, 8.3 million jobs have been created in his first 14 months in office, and that shatters records. And unemployment has dropped to a low of 3.6%, the fastest drop in history. And it's with the least number of Americans on unemployment benefits since 1970. And on the other side of the coin, we got 19 companies on the Fortune 100 list that paid little or no federal income taxes last year. And in the case of AT&T and 3 other companies, some of them paid less than zero in federal income taxes. Meanwhile, corporate profits hit a 70-year high in 2021. To me, it looks like price gouging. It looks like taking advantage of the pandemic and hurt Americans even more. Now, about the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court justices, those guys, those 5 people who vote or supposedly are going to vote for overturning Roe versus Wade were appointed by Republican presidents who lost the popular vote. And who's missing on that Supreme Court is Eric Garland, whose position was stolen by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans by breaking convention and tradition, which they don't care about when it gets right down to the nitty-gritty. All these 5 people were selected by that alternative right-wing Federalist Society who want to overturn Roe versus Wade and all these other modern era rights and protections. They could get rid of gay marriage. And who knows what else could go down the tube with this. And that Kavanaugh character, he impeached himself. He said that Roe versus Wade was settled law when he was doing his Senate confirmation hearings. And then mysteriously, $1.5 million in personal debt is paid off by undisclosed sources. And this guy has a history of sexual misconduct. I believe that college professor when she said what she said about him. And then we got Thomas. He should be impeached for massive conflicts of interest with alt-right groups. His wife was there on January 6th when that riot broke out, when the attack on the Capitol. And can anybody believe that a husband and wife on that day, these Washingtonians who live and breathe Washington, D.C., that they didn't talk during supper? Honey, where were you? What did you do today?
Well, let me just say this on that point then, that conflict of interest is not exactly an impeachable offense. I mean, impeachment, as it is just very basically described, is for high crimes and misdemeanors. And sure, this may be an ethics issue, but unless it violates actual stated law, does not rise to that level here. Now, is it a little bit suspect? Absolutely here. And should there probably be some recusals based on this as we see further cases move forward? Absolutely. I mean, legitimacy and confidence in public institutions, the Supreme Court included, has been at an all-time low. So if that is not having a spare thought put towards it, that's a mistake. Because, yeah, that's definitely an issue here. But for impeachment, that's not exactly the standard as it exists. So calling for that beyond that, well, it would serve otherwise political goals that you might end up supporting here, doesn't really bear out when it comes to the actual actions here. But, I mean, you bring up some interesting points there about valuation of El Paso and therefore also about taxation, which has some finer points I think we'll want to get to here. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now because, I mean, well, there's a lot more to get to here, but we got to take that top of the hour break. So I thank you for the point in the call. We got to go to the top of the hour news break and a whole lot more coming out of this break. We'll certainly have more calls on the line and more comments. So that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso fires on the scene of a crash Gateway Boulevard westbound at Lee Trevino, causing some slowing there. An accident reported on Paisano Drive eastbound at Stanton downtown. I-10 westbound is slow from Airway to Paisano with 10-minute delays. And you get an accident George Dieter northbound at Treywood. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. The House Speaker says the fight goes on to make sure the Roe v. Wade abortion decision becomes the law of the land.
We want to enshrine that in the law. We already passed that in the House months ago. The Senate will take it up on Wednesday. It will take us down a path, and we have to keep fighting until that right is protected.
Nancy Pelosi made that comment just days after Politico published a leaked Supreme Court draft decision that indicated justices were ready to overturn the decades-old ruling. The California Democrats said the focus must be on what this means for the American people. Wall Street is closing out a volatile week in the red. Stocks extended Thursday's losses due to inflation fears following a stronger than expected jobs report. At the closing bell, the Dow Jones lost 98 points to 32,899. The mother of Gabby Petito is suing Brian Laundrie's estate for $30 million. Laundrie confessed to killing Petito in a notebook found by officials near his body. The couple was on a cross-country trip in Gabby's van when Laundrie returned to his parents' Florida home without her. The lawsuit states Laundrie intentionally killed Petito and caused funeral and burial expenses. A new national poll indicates Florida's governor would win a general election vote against President Biden. Rick Hoschel has more.
The Rasmussen Report survey gives Republican Ron DeSantis a 46 to 35% advantage over the Democratic incumbent. Another 11% said they would vote for someone else, and 2% don't plan to vote. DeSantis is running for re-election as governor this year and has not indicated he'll make a White House bid.
Officials in California are warning that another wave of blackouts could be on the way this summer. In August of 2020, the state experienced the first rolling blackouts in nearly 2 decades. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Johnny Depp Amber Heard defamation case is on hold until May 16th. Mark Woolsey reports.
The adjournment came on Thursday after Heard took the stand for a second straight day, testifying in her own defense. Heard was emotional as she again claimed that she was abused by her former husband. At one point, she told the court she thought Depp was going to kill her during the course of an alleged 2015 beating. The Pirates of the Caribbean star is suing Heard for $50 million for an op-ed she wrote in the Washington Post in December of 2018. The actress is countersuing. I'm Mark Woolsey.
Coffee bean shipments delivered to a Nespresso plant in Switzerland contain more than 1,000 pounds of cocaine. Authorities seized more than $50 million worth of the drug. The factory called police earlier this week after employees found an undetermined white substance while unloading bags of freshly delivered coffee beans. Reports of human trafficking involving foreign agricultural laborers in Georgia has local farm worker advocates fuming.
A recent article published in USA Today revealed ties between the State Department of Labor and one of the largest U.S. human trafficking cases involving seasonal workers. According to the United Farm Workers Foundation, the story exposes problems with the H-2A program. The UFW's executive director, Diana Torres, tells the national newspaper the links between labor officials in Georgia and the defendants highlight the need for stronger protections and oversight in the H-2A seasonal visa program. I'm Liz Kennedy.
The building in Times Square that the ball drops from to ring in the new year is getting a $500 million renovation. The building at One Times Square is more than a century old. It will be reimagined, and included will be an observation deck on the 19th floor to view Times Square. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. WIN. That's WIN. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Finding a great hire can be a challenge. That's why there's Indeed. Their powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 toward your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Gerald Harmon. I'm the president of the American Medical Association. So we want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
Rich is just a really good guy. The term good egg isn't enough to describe him. He's also certified organic and free range. Rich puts the cap back on everything. The toothpaste, the olive oil, the shampoo, everything. He lets his 10-year-old nephew beat him at virtual tennis, even though he can straight up slay his 10-year-old nephew in virtual tennis. When the toilet paper is running low, Rich replaces the roll on the actual holder, not just on the back of the toilet. Rich is texting and driving. Rich, no. What are you doing, Rich? I was just telling everyone how great you are. Texting and driving makes good people look bad. Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690, KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming in on those areas here as well, and we'll keep getting to those, as well as those phone lines. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Today is the day when we do all of this throughout the program. Comments, calls, your ideas, thoughts, questions, etc. throughout the entire program, because Friday, Free for All Friday, when we have those open lines and taking on any subject. Because, oh boy, if there was ever a week that needed a pressure relief valve to really get it out there, it's this one, and I'm sure that will only continue ramping up as all of this stuff happens. But, well, let's get back into more of it here. One other thing I wanted to mention before we get back to the phone calls here real quick, just kind of it's been a little bit overshadowed, but you want to talk about outsized potential impact here. Best article I found to kind of encapsulate it from the Texas Tribune, titled "Governor Greg Abbott says federal government should cover costs of educating undocumented students in Texas public schools," specifically referring to the 1982 U.S. Supreme Court case Plyler versus Doe, which has been starting to come up. Governor Greg Abbott made some statements about wanting to revisit that case and change the formula for Texas. Of course, there's been a lot of focus on Texas's education funding formulas here, including that constitutional election, that, as a gentle reminder, we do have the finale, the election day itself, I guess is the technically correct way to put it, happening tomorrow. So if you haven't gone out and voted, which does include myself, but I'm definitely going to find the time to make my way out between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. tomorrow to cast my vote on that, because the taxes we've been talking about, Central Appraisal District, all that stuff, definitely wrapped up in this. But this one would be an even further one that could potentially affect it. Essentially, Plyler is the decision that said that regardless of documentation status or citizenship, that states have to pay for education, and that is something that Abbott now placing a focus on. Interesting to see how that will develop as we get it closer to, well, that election. Again, I know there's a lot of elections and a lot of voting we've been talking about, but let's just keep it clear here. Saturday, tomorrow, we have the regular and uniform and special election that has including 2 constitutional amendments for everyone within our Texas portion of the viewing area and listening area here. Then we have the primary runoff election, early voting starting May 16th, election day there, May 24th. And then we have the November midterm election. So just mark all of them down on your calendar, put it in your phone, whatever you need to. Just keep them clear and make sure you're going out to vote here. A lot of comments coming in, a lot of calls here that we'll be getting to more here. Some of the comments as well, dropping those reactions. We appreciate it. Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Calvin Williams. Ion Grimm and Juan all over on the Facebook page. Do appreciate it here, and talk more about points of views and the ability to discuss it here. I guess as much as we sometimes have focuses on who's being allowed to say what, very much in favor of people, airing what they want to say here. That's kind of what we exist for, because the beauty of this kind of a program and the way we've structured this very much on purpose is that there's response for it. So I know that some out there say, why do you listen to this guy? He's full of it. And that's kind of the point. If someone has something off the wall or even controversial to say, this gives us the space to talk about it, and that's what we will always continue to do here. So let's go back to those phone calls right now. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Barbara on the west side here with us right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few responses to Raul. Elon Musk paid between $11 and $12 billion just recently in taxes. You can take him off his list. And in 2021, if the corporations made the highest income they ever did, well, that's Biden's policies. And then we are still a negative 1.2 million jobs short of pre-pandemic period. So all these jobs, once again, I repeat myself, they are people coming back into the workforce and filling positions they had, and we're still 1.2 million short. But I wanted to talk about a town in Maine called Portland, Maine. They were letting the administration know this week that they can no longer guarantee shelter for asylum seekers, that they're at capacity and that their staff may not be able to help either. And the fact that it's tourist season, what rooms are available are extremely expensive. So I guess that we should send a welcome to the border to Portland, Maine, because that's how the border cities, the small towns along the border, feel about their influx of illegal immigrants. And the second thing I wanted to talk about was Gina McCarthy. She's the climate advisor of the Biden administration. She was speaking, and in her remarks to the crowd, she's all excited about green new energy, all right? She said that they are working on 100 new rules for appliances and constructions of new building structures, and sustainable airlines. And then she said about the airlines, they better be with it or they're going to have to get out of here. Imagine 100 new rules for appliances, construction buildings, and the airlines. I just blew my mind. But one of the things that Kudlow was saying is that under the Trump administration, every new rule that they were going to do, Trump required a cost-benefit analysis to be done. And then a group would, review the results of that cost-benefit analysis, and the determination would be made. He also stated that under the Biden administration, he went in and changed that. So I don't know what type of analysis the Biden administration is doing, but 100 rules, I mean, that ought to take a lot of analysis. I don't know that in the time they've been in office, anybody has had an opportunity to review 100 rules and see if it's worth it or not. And then finally, I saw that on Tuesday, the City Council is going to have on their agenda a question of whether or not they should form a board or a commission to protect, focused on women's equality and to protect women's rights.
Okay.
So my question is, what is their definition of women? Are they only setting up this commission for abortion, the rights of women who elect to have an abortion? Because I don't see where our city council did anything in protecting our young athletes, our swimmers, our track. And the reason I say that is my daughter was in track, and we've had this conversation many times. Trans women are taking over women's sports. Where's their concern about equality for women in our sports? That's important too. Or is it just convenient? And at this point, on the commission they're proposing, that just deals specifically with anybody who can have a child or abort a child. Because their definition, I don't know what their definition is of a woman. I know what I am. I'm a woman. I know what makes me a woman. I know what makes a man a man. So I think that's something that the city council needs to be asked, and I'll probably ask them that Monday morning problem when you go to city council is you can pose a question, but you can't have a conversation with
Right.
the councilman. They just look at you and listen, and you kind of feel like an idiot because you pose a question and you don't get a response. But they need to think twice about a commissioner or board that's going to talk about women's equality and protecting a woman's rights. Because first they have to define what is a woman and then go from there. Until they're there, I don't think that a board or commission can do anything. That's my opinion when I saw what they were doing on Tuesday. So I would encourage everybody in El Paso to go listen to this city council meeting and see exactly what their definition is and see what exactly their goal is and which women they're protecting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a complicated subject.
Yeah,
it's not one that we can take lightly. We have to really think deep about it. And it's not being judgmental. It's not judging anybody or anybody's lifestyle or anything like that. It's just going there clear-eyed. What is a woman?
No, I mean, that's,
and who is,
since that question has been brought up here, it's a valid one. So going further into the supporting documentation that City Council has on that here, the question and the way they put it up here is that they reference directly the draft majority opinion written by Alito on Roe v. Wade. And so specifically, this says I'm just reading directly from the agenda packet on this issue. This item is intended to protect all women's rights, including but not limited to the right to make a decision about their bodies, and direct the city manager to establish a City of El Paso Women's Commission focused on women's equality and protecting their rights. So that is the further information from this particular agenda item. Again, that you are right, coming up here on May 10th, so next Tuesday. Yep, for that city council meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I would encourage everybody to go to the meeting and express their opinion or ask questions.
I mean, I fully support that in any circumstance, but particularly if this is one that you're finding serious issues with. I mean, there's issues with public comment in previous, but as this is an issue and an item that has come up, there should be more discussion allowable in certain cases. But if this is just an instruction to them, may or may not be. These meetings could also stretch on for a better part of days in some circumstances. So we'll see what this one comes out with. I'm sure we'll have more focus and follow-up from yourselves and others, and reporting from our news partners out there as we get closer to it, and see what the decisions are coming out of City Council anyway.
That's right. Thank you, Andrew, and have a great weekend.
I appreciate you too. Have a great one there. I mean, there's a lot of issues we delve into here, and we'll see what comes up. Some of the other responses here, Michael Petta is saying that the rules on appliances will only make them more expensive and less efficient. Also talking about property taxes, talking about some of the school funding issues as the part of the property taxes. Not exactly, because that's more of a state focus. I mean, there is the local property taxes about it, but well, that's part of what is being talked about by Governor Greg Abbott anyway when it comes to those funding costs here statewide here. But tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. I know we got more calls on the line, and we'll certainly get to those here. So if you're wanting to call in and comment that way, again, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. It's Free for All Friday, so you know we're getting into it, and we'll keep doing so even after this break. So stay tuned. You're to News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. I know that Mother's Day is coming up, and you definitely need to give your mother their due, but don't forget that there are some other holidays coming in short order, including Father's Day, and regardless of whatever the occasion, and a great gift to give, or even just treat yourself to, is, of course, Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa, because, well, they've got it down pat. They're the place that I trust with all of the hair on my head, and for that matter, they're actually the official hair and beard sponsor of the program for that reason. So they, of course, got your haircut, your expert beard grooming and styling, shaving and services, and everything you want, and maybe some services you hadn't even thought about yet. Plus, they've got their King for a Day packages, and I can't think of a better gift for dad or the other special gentleman in your life. You can give them, of course, a call at Gentleman's Republic by giving them a call at 915-532-3000, 915-532-3000, or again, find them online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard westbound at Lee Trevino is closed due to a crash, and traffic is being detoured onto Adabel Drive. On I-10 westbound between Airway and Paisano, it's a 5-minute delay. Southbound on the 54 Patriot at Montana, the shoulder's blocked there due to a stalled vehicle. An accident's blocking the right lane at North Loop Drive and America's Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples. During Staples Teacher Appreciation Week, earn 20% back in classroom rewards for your favorite teacher or school, plus up to 5% back in Staples rewards for yourself. Download the Staples Connect app to sign up for classroom rewards. In-store only. Offer ends 5/7. Staples, the working and learning store.
Home title theft. That's the identity fraud you really need to worry about. Why? Because home title theft is on the rise. It's devastating, and you can even get evicted from your home. Look, credit card and bank identity thefts are a nuisance. But if a thief gets your credit card, the card company handles it. And the same with your bank account. Your bank covers it. But when a cyber thief forges his name onto your home's title, he can take over your home and even have you evicted. That's why you should protect legal title to your home with Home Title Lock, America's leader in home title protection. The instant they detect a foreign or domestic cyber thief tampering with your home's title, they mobilize their U.S.-based experts to help shut it down. Protect your most valuable asset. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. And use promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. Again, that's HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code RADIO.
If you work remote, Staples has you covered.
A mid-mod desk chair to rejuvenate my ho-hum workspace.
Staples has you covered.
A place to put my papers so I can be more productive.
A storage cabinet that I can roll out of the way on weekends.
Staples has you covered with remote workspace solutions. And now get 25% off storage and filing products, chair mats, decor, and lighting with the purchase of an office chair or desk. Explore solutions for your remote workspace at Staples, the working and learning store. Ends 5/28 in store only.
Chances are you're jamming in your car right now. And since Liberty Mutual customizes car insurance so you only pay for what you need, Limu and I are going to show you some safe car dance moves. Hit it. Everybody, check your blind spots real quick. Now hands on the wheel. Put them 10 in 2 and move your head like a bird do. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. A lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
That's just one adoption story that started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk are the names you can find us under on most of those. And joining on the conversation, a lot of interesting comments, questions, and such coming in all the ways we do. And today's the day we do that, because Friday, Free for All Friday, open lines throughout the program. And, of course, your comments and calls on deck both hours, coming around to the bottom of the second hour here, but we'll keep it going through the end of it here, including Jay Visconti just asking, will the commission, the one that previous caller just referencing there, include the women's right to choose what goes in their body versus the right to choose what they can take out, vaccine versus abortion? That's some shades that I've seen a little bit. It's not been a huge part of the public debate, at least at this point. It would be interesting to see if it comes up even further there, the idea of medical privacy, among other things. And I know that a lot of the phrases have been going around, my body, my choice, right to choose, all that kind of stuff have, again, different meanings depending on which parts you're talking about here, but often some, confluences of effect here, among other things. And a lot more comments coming in here as well. Kathy Codry, Ion Grimm, RJ, Michael Perez, and a whole lot more. James Ratcliffe asking a little bit earlier about the KKK and what I've known about for El Paso, were there KKK groups here and their political persuasion. Not so sure about that last part, but the existence of groups, pretty much undeniably so. In fact, there are actually, unfortunately, some school names that can be pointed to in the area as not necessarily being inherently at issue, even currently, but that they were chosen for the specific purpose because there was a representation on the school board at that point in time. So it has happened, and there have been, I think, a lot of good things have happened in getting rid of that for the most part here, and making sure that there isn't that kind of power held in this area, because, yeah, more than a little bit of a problem here. Down to some other comments coming in. Ion Graham saying companies using laws in existence concerning corporate taxes. I mean, loopholes exist. And just one point I want to make on the idea of taxation of rich individuals. I mean, there's the whole Jeff Bezos argument, to bring in another billionaire here, about how he only made $80,000 last year because, strictly speaking, income, direct disbursement from the company that he's otherwise in charge of, sure, maybe technically correct, but when we talk about the net value and net worth of these individuals, most of it then comes up from stock options and those kind of things. And all I'll say is that I know that there have been some laws being considered, some more taxation possibilities that come down to the idea of, okay, taxing on unrealized gains, which has a lot of problems for me, because essentially it's saying that, well, your stock went up so many umpteen points this year, but you haven't sold it, so you don't technically have the money, but so we're going to tax you on that. What happens then if the stock goes down? They're going to reimburse you for the lost value, or are you just out? And if it goes back up again, you're going to keep getting like, there are serious problems when talking about that here. So we'll get further into some of these issues here, but let's get to the phone lines right now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Jim on the east side here with us right now. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to comment on two different topics. One of them, well, let's start with the one with the people coming from Mexico.
Sure.
And the education, you know, to get free education stuff. You know, I was looking into what is required to go into Mexico and purchase a property over there.
Oh, yeah.
In order to possibly retire by the Caribbean, you know, in the Yucatan, the Yucatan area. And to my surprise, I found out, first of all, you got to have, if it's a couple, if it's a retired couple, that have proof that you're getting at least minimum of $3,300 a month, and you got to show documentation, certified, and all this, in order to be able to get a 1-year residency. And then after that, they'll consider whether or not they want to keep you there or not. They usually do if you meet the criteria, but they assure themselves that you're not going to go and bum off of the Mexican government. You know, $3,300 a month. It's not a huge amount, but for Mexico, I would have thought it'd be maybe $1,000 to $2,000. You know, but anyway, or you could prove that you own property in the amount of about $400,000 that's paid for, completely paid for, and then you could qualify that way. But if you own property that you still owe money, a mortgage, that doesn't cut it. So they secure themselves. So I don't see why the United States, why we can't secure ourselves. That's about Mexico. Involving the abortion thing, I just like to give my opinion of why I disagree with abortion. The premise that I hear all the time is that it's my body. Well, you can do whatever you want with your body. You can chop off your leg if you want, but it's not their body. It's a separate human life that in the 1970s, when Roe versus Wade was established, or I shouldn't say established, was ruled incorrectly, was because there was the technology wasn't there to be able to see on what we can see now, the heartbeat, the brain waves, and everything else that makes up a living human being. So it's very different now that we see if the definition of a human life isn't a beating heart and brain waves, then what is? You know, they're all for the science. Well, that is the science. A heartbeat and a brainwave, they're alive. Well, I don't understand what the confusion's all about. So that at that point, it's a different human being, separate, from the woman and destroying that human being, killing it, is a crime against humanity. You're killing a human being. And the thing about my body, if they could prove that a baby doesn't come alive until they come out of the womb at that split second when they come out, I wouldn't have a problem. Go ahead, have all the abortions you want. But when they're beating hearts and brainwaves, that's not okay. Somebody questioned the biblical perspective of a baby. If you look in Jeremiah, first chapter, verse 5, let me read what it says to you. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you a prophet to the nations inside the womb. So that answers from a biblical perspective. And I suppose that's all I have to say.
Fair enough here. Well, thank you for the perspective in the call. Do appreciate it here. To the questions you're bringing up here, again, I brought up that standard of fetal viability, which has not been much of a focus of legislation lately, particularly in the light of SB 8, the Texas law that was the primary focus of all of this discussion issue ahead of this Supreme Court involvement and draft decision coming out. And that's the one I find to be probably the most persuasive to my line of thinking about how these things should be considered and possibly legislated. Fact of the matter is that when we're looking at this issue, as the Supreme Court has been and is reviewing it, and this potential decision, very strong potential, it does seem like, given all of the factors involved and surrounding this, even with this leak, is that my expectation is that, yeah, this will be kicked back to the states and we'll see a variety of standards involved. I doubt Texas will lessen their standard at all. If anything, it might increase it. There have been some that have those trigger laws in place, so to speak, that are going to go to essentially complete bans in some areas, and then others that will no laws essentially in the books. New Mexico, one of them, I believe, essentially is one of them, and others that might go to that fetal viability standard. So I think we'll be looking at quite the patchwork across the country when it comes to the potential and what will then be put into place, and quite a lot more state level focus on these issues going forward here. That's my expectation here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. Some more comments coming in about some of these issues here, among other things. Anyway, let's go more to the calls here. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, how you doing, Andrew? Okay. I was listening to a podcast today, and there was a doctor named Naomi Wolf, who's the founder of a group called Daily Clout. And remember the Pfizer documents that were supposed to be sealed for 75 years, and they got a FOIA request to have those documents released?
Mm-hmm.
About the shot?
Right,
okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, her team of scientists and doctors are pouring over the 55,000 pages, okay, of how both, and now they're finding out that both Pfizer and the FDA knew from early on that the shots did not stop transmission. They prepared for 6 boosters because they knew the shot effectiveness was waned, and they knew a lot about a lot of really bad adverse events. And to give you, for instance, basically each dose of mRNA of the shot that you got had mRNA, spike proteins, and lipid nanoparticles that all spread throughout the body. Remember that when they came out with this shot, they said it stayed in your arms. They knew for a fact that it would spread throughout the body. And the lipid nanoparticles are tiny, hard, fatty casings that end up circulating into liver, ovaries, adrenals, lymph nodes, and the spleen, causing heart damage. They knew in their clinical trials that 35 minors had permanent heart disease from the shot. They knew that there was so many adverse effects that they had reports of fetal death, spontaneous abortion, failure to thrive, because they found that the spike protein went into the breast milk. Muscle, they had problems with muscle pain and joint pain, myalgia, dangerous fevers, and yet they still, said it was safe and effective for pregnant women, and they still say this is safe and effective for pregnant women. And they know all of these things are, and they're forcing people to get the shots. And one thing really upsetting is that Moderna, and the initial dose was given. There was 100 micrograms of the shot to be given. Pfizer knew that there was a major problem with causing adverse events with 100 microgram dosage, and so Moderna gave out 100 micrograms in dose of Moderna. The Pfizer dose was cut back to 30 micrograms for adults. 12 to 17 got 10 micrograms. Under that, they got 3 micrograms. And Moderna is now looking at, for their emergency use authorization for children, 6 months, 4-year-olds, they're looking at 25 micrograms. This is, I mean, people need to start, they need to look at these things and, for sure, think real hard about whether or not you want to get your child a shot for this. The risk benefit, there is practically no risk. There's risk for anything, but there's practically no risk of a child getting a bad case of COVID. There wasn't very many children die of COVID at all, and the risk for giving them a dose of the shot is going to be a lot greater. So, if you want to, you can take a look at the Naomi Wolf study and the people. What do you think? I mean, I find this to be very, very disturbing.
I mean, okay, the way I look at it with vaccines in general, before getting to your specific question here, is that, yeah, I mean, for years it has been said that there are those that have very adverse reactions. I remember specifically in the Gulf War era, there was a female service member actually who ended up having to get one of the many injections required for that kind of a thing and having their life essentially ruined. Because that is always a possibility, and why I will fully agree with you on the idea that the ability to make this choice for yourself. Now, of course, military service has some extra considerations that go into it as opposed to the general public, but the concept still applies in my mind, the ability to make this decision for yourself, because if it's required here and there are no essentially exemptions for even medical need, then you're dooming a certain subset of the population. The entire idea of most vaccines is the idea that they're trying to minimize that subset, but it's always going to exist. So to say that, well, everyone has to get it, no holds barred, is a pretty ridiculous standard. So to that point, that's how I generally think about them. With this one, the decisions I made for myself and my family, we all made individually here, was the idea that we weighed the risks and benefits for ourselves and came to the conclusion that given the other risk factors that existed with some of those near and dear to me, that it made sense for us to do it at that point in time here, because, and I still stand by that, did not have any of these adverse effects in general you're talking about, didn't have the same kind of history of issues with it. So that's how we came while weighing these kinds of factors for it. But to your specific point about when it comes to, well, essentially what has gone into this vaccine, I mean, the mRNA was known about, certainly. The idea of there being it spreading through the body, that was kind of a given for me. I didn't heard the argument that it only stays within the arm, because then, I mean, you don't get COVID in your arm, or only in your arm anyway. So that one didn't totally, I mean, that one is not one I've totally followed up on, but I mean, people do need to be informed about this. The idea of keeping it under wraps and not available to be released, yeah, definitely didn't sit well with me. So I appreciate some going into it, and people should know the factors. Absolutely.
Andrew, if I mean, what they made it, they did is they told people that it was safe and effective. They did, if they would have come out and told people about all the adverse effects that they had in these trials, all the problems they were having would you have taken the shot? I mean, if you knew about all the things that they are finding about it now, would you? I mean, and they knew about this. In the documents, they are showing that they knew that these were problems, that they had problems, but they went out for emergency use authorization anyway. And the FDA collaborated with them and said, okay, we're just going to go ahead and we're going to make sure we're going to tell everybody that in the world that these shots are safe and effective. And they knew that there was problems with these shots from the very beginning. This is all coming out in the Pfizer documents themselves, in their trials, in their clinical trials for the shot.
I mean, short answer, yes, because a lot of that was baked into the decision for me. We understood that there was, more than usual when it comes to vaccines that have existed for decades, this level of technology, mRNA in general, and use of that way came with certain risks that was baked into it for us here. So the fact that there have been more that have come out about this, more specifics, I guess the way I look at it is that for the subsets here, because any medical treatment, I don't care what you're talking about. I don't care if it's putting a Band-Aid on. There's going to be something that is going to, for some subset of the population, going to cause an issue. Plain and simple, flat out, full stop. So to say that, well, these may have been worse than we thought to, yeah, there are, again, concerning levels in the way that this was handled and kept, again, like under wraps for decades was the plan here, concerning. And I do wonder about how this should be dealt with in the future. But essentially, for me and mine, yeah, this decision and the understanding that there might be more to come out about it was baked in for us. So that's why we made the decision that we did. And that's why I still stand by it. It's worked out for us in this case. Now, if there was true malfeasance in part of this, that's the part I want to see investigated. But to your simple question, yeah, I'm not terrifically surprised that there will be more after effects. You talk about anything new having happened and how often studies come out saying that, well, actually something we thought about that was good for you is actually bad and maybe slowly killing you. That happens, I guess, more constantly. But for us and me and mine, we are good with it, essentially. But you're, of course, entitled to make your own decision and have your own thoughts about it. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Well overdue for our last one here. So we're going to come out of this break, talk more about these issues and a whole lot more here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And of course, your host, Andrew J. Polk, squeezing in what we can, getting to those calls we can, telling you what we got coming up for you next week after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. Every day, thousands of children come across the Bridge of the Americas and other ports of entry in the El Paso area to go to school here in El Paso and other border communities. However, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says it's time to overturn a 40-year-old ruling that requires the United States to pay for the education of migrant children. Plyer versus Doe is a 1982 Supreme Court ruling that requires public schools to educate all students regardless of whether they're U.S. citizens. KFOX 14 spoke with more than 20 people to hear their opinions on this, and not one person supported overturning the law. Beto O'Rourke, who's running against incumbent Abbott in Texas' gubernatorial race, said Abbott would rather take that money out of public education and turn that funding into vouchers for parents to choose private schools or charter schools. And Wet n Wild Water World in Anthony, Texas is opening for the 2022 season this Saturday, May 7th. Wet n Wild will be open weekdays only during the month of May and every day beginning Memorial Day weekend. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Expect delays on the Gateway westbound before Lee Trevino. A crash has blocked all lanes, so Gateway West is shut down. I-10 westbound between Airway and Paisano, it's a 10-minute delay. Red at Donovan Drive, both lanes on Red westbound are closed for roadwork. Zaragoza, just south of Tierra Este, has an accident. It's slowing traffic. Expect delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. It was definitely a warm end to our work week with temperatures returning back to near 90. The winds during the day were gusty at times, but as we get into tonight, those winds will decrease and should be less than 15 miles an hour. However, this weekend does look to be a windier setup for us, with Mother's Day looking to be the windier day of the two, and it looks like also we're looking at some very warm temperatures.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you ready for an unparalleled work experience where you see your impact every day? GDIT is hiring bilingual English-Spanish customer service representatives to deliver critical support to the government. $500 sign-on bonus available for select positions. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso Jobs.
New on Curiosity Stream. With superior armies comes superior weapons. How has innovation mechanized the battlefield? From bullets to battleships and everything in between. It's machinery of warfare. Plus, from the gross to the gourmet. See how that in-flight meal lands on your tray table. On secrets of your airline food. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. We're getting into a lot of stuff here on this Free-for-All Friday, and we got a lot more to squeeze in before we end the program here today. A lot of comments coming in. Catherine Codry, Ion Grimm, James Ratcliffe, RJ, Barbara Carrasco, and more tuning in, chiming in. Also leaving those reacts here over on the Facebook page primarily. We do have Juan, Ion Grimm, Monica Cervantes, Flaca Jimenez, Robbie Flores, and Calvin Williams. We do appreciate it because it helps with just the mission that we have to talk about live local talk radio and the issues we can do on it here in the borderland here. So let's get back to one of those more calls here on the line here. We might have to be a shortest break here. We do have a Tom on the west side here with us right now. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and happy Friday.
You too as well.
Yeah, what I wanted to talk about is really the 25th Amendment, Section 3, with regard to our with regard to President Biden. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos lately of, Biden giving speeches or him just dealing with people in the White House with regard to, like, when President Obama was in the White House and him basically just meandering around as if he doesn't really know what's going on. It's very evident that the people on his staff and people that are around him don't really respect him. And I just don't know if he's capable of executing the powers of the presidency. And kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that, but also what is with the kind of the fake sets that he has been on, basically for the last several months when he's been addressing the country. He's not in the Oval Office.
Right.
Where is he when that happens? Have you seen that? I mean,
I've seen it primarily in relation to the press briefings, actually. A backdrop that doesn't actually exist, like kind of looks like it's on, I think, like on essentially one of the rotundas kind of looking thing. I don't know exactly what they're trying to portray, but general kind of White House set. But I've seen that mostly in relation to like press briefings or some of the smaller speeches like that. So I have seen what you're talking about there. I'll just start off by saying that I don't like trying to armchair quarterback or armchair diagnose any elected official. A lot of that happened in the previous administration, and I took a dim view of it then because it does now, because it's sure, certain things can be seen. There are also, I know a lot has been said about Joe Biden's speaking style. He was someone who had, a stutter for years. So, but that's by the by. In general, when it comes to the 25th Amendment, because I know a lot of conversation came up on that, even during the last administration, on competency, that it's never actually really been tested. Secession, of course, or succession of positions has kind of been, and when there have been times when there was literal incapacitation of the executive in terms of either being unconscious for a procedure, things like that, and talking about, okay, and therefore, the vice president is standing by kind of thing. But the actual mechanism you're talking about there, Section 3, that details the process by which the cabinet essentially can say that, well, the president is no longer fit to serve. And then the response is back and forth, because there is multiple kind of levels of this that come with that, is never actually been tested. So the simple answer is, you can look at what's written there and talking about how, yes, just to read it exactly here, that whenever the president transmits to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House with his written declaration that he is unable to discharge his powers and duty of the office, but then, of course, that the vice president and majority of either principal officers of the executive departments or other Congress may provide, transmit to the president pro tem of the Senate. So I think you're talking maybe a little bit more about Section 4 there specifically, because Section 3 is kind of the president themselves discharging their own duties. But so Section 4 is the part that really kind of came up and was talked about in the last administration. Now has come up with this one. Of course, just honestly, your guess is as good as mine, is what's written there. But of course, what is written and what is intended and what might actually happen don't totally necessarily match up. Now, do I think that even with this, previously pretty impending midterm election shakeup that was coming, I still think that trajectory is still pretty much intact, even if this, the events of this week, the Supreme Court leak, all that stuff may have thrown a wrench into that otherwise probably pretty smooth process. That will still maintain in place, because it does take essentially the cabinet, to my reading of it, to then move through that. So unless there is a removal of essentially the president from office through any other means or impeachment, something like that, I don't see that really moving forward at this point in time, outside of something truly extraordinary, outside of, I guess, if you're seeing issues with the behavior and such things, moving beyond what has already essentially, I guess, been baked in to those in leadership positions within the administration.
Yeah, I just, from my perspective, and a lot of people I talk to and family members, they don't have the confidence that President Biden is really conducting the duties of the presidency with any confidence, and that there are, who knows, people in his cabinet, maybe chief of staff, are essentially really making the decisions and running things. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's already evident that unfortunately he's starting to suffer from a form of dementia or something of that nature. And just wanted to see your thoughts on where you think it might go if things are to be changed, because there doesn't seem to be much confidence in the vice president as well. But she naturally would be the person to take over if the 25th Amendment Section 3 is enacted. So,
So again, it's a reasonable question, and one that has, again, never really been tested. But I guess I don't see it as being terrifically likely in the short term. I think the most likely thing would probably be a change in the control of the House and of the Senate, and therefore a complete, essentially, stymieing of, this current administration's agenda. That I see as the most probable outcome in the next, that 6-month mark out from the election we're about at here.
Right. That's all I have. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right, we got to take that last break because we're almost at the end of the program here. So coming out of this, we'll close out the show, tell you what we got coming up for you in future episodes and all of that good stuff, because, it never stops, and we'll keep talking about it as long as it keeps going here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Expect delays on Gateway westbound before Lee Trevino. A crash there has blocked all lanes. Gateway West is shut down and traffic is detouring onto Adabel. On the 54 Patriot southbound at Montana Avenue, that accident is now cleared off to the right. Red Road westbound at Donovan Drive, both lanes blocked there for road work. And Zaragoza south of Tierra Este, accident reported there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you ready for an unparalleled work experience where you see your impact every day? GDIT is hiring bilingual English-Spanish customer service representatives to deliver critical support to the government. $500 sign-on bonus available for select positions. Apply now at gdit.com/El Paso Jobs.
Wondering if the COVID vaccine is right for your child? If you can trust it? Want to know what a healthcare professional would say? I'm Dr. Ada Stewart, Board Chair, American Academy of Family Physicians. We want you to know it's important for all children 5 and older to get a COVID vaccine because we know that millions of cases of COVID have been in kids. You can trust the COVID vaccine for yourself and for your kids. I do.
We can do this. Find a vaccine near you at vaccines.gov, paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
You owe the IRS back taxes? Then get ready to pay up. The IRS has giant private collection agencies actively tracking down folks who owe the IRS. So if you think dodging them was stressful in the past, it's going to get a whole lot tougher. Optima Tax Relief has this advice. Don't wait. Solve your tax problems now before it's too late. Optima Tax Relief works to stop the demand letters, stop the aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS collectors from targeting you. Ask Optima about the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands, and nobody knows this program better than they do. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, and they get results, having resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get a fresh start. Call today for your free consultation.
Call 800-337-4548. That's 800-337-4548. 800-337-4548.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso. That's going to about do it for us here for this week. It has been quite the roller coaster ride here. And of course, we'll be continuing to focus on all the things that affect us here in the borderland as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. So some of the things we got working for you in the coming week, more focus on those upcoming elections. So just as a reminder, make sure to go out and vote this Saturday if you have not already. Y'all better do it because these are important issues that are going to affect those tax rates, among other things. I know we've been talking about a whole lot of issues going on here. So just keep in mind what is good and actionable for yourself here. Go out and vote 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow, Saturday. epcountyvotes.com, your resource for that. We'll be talking further about the other upcoming elections, of course, with the primary runoffs and the races that will be setting up for November. So stay tuned for all of that here, a lot more of it. And, of course, as Flauke Mendes just reminded me, happy Mother's Day to all of those out there, and hope you have a wonderful weekend for all that. So that's going to do it here for us this week. I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, chime in. I mean, we have a lot of opinions, a lot of differencing ones here that come up on this show, but well, I appreciate it greatly. So I hope you all have a wonderful Mother's Day weekend, and certainly remember to call your mother. Otherwise, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, all. We'll see y'all next week. Be sure to tune in to the El Paso History Radio Show tomorrow, though. But otherwise, bye.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Expect delays on Gateway westbound before Lee Trevino. A crash there has blocked all lanes. Gateway West is shut down and traffic is detouring onto Adabel. On the 54 Patriot southbound at Montana Avenue, that accident is now cleared off to the right. Red Road westbound at Donovan Drive, both lanes blocked there for road work. And Zaragoza south of Tierra Este, accident reported there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply. and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Bed Bath, and Walmart. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
With an open channel,
I guess just try to keep channels open.
we welcome open-minded individuals
I try to keep an open mind to all issues.
with open arms
I think we need to always have our eyes open.
for open conversation. And when you open the iHeartRadio app, you open a whole new world wherever you are.
What should America do about immigration crisis?
I guess open the borders, but at the same time, check everyone that's coming in.
Open the gates.
A free download in the App Store or at ktsmradio.com.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour, and always online. News on the hour and the half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. It's a down day to end the week on Wall Street. Stocks recovered some earlier losses in late trading after a stronger than expected jobs report. Inflation fears and the prospect of future Fed rate hikes added to market volatility.